Hello, first things first, thanks for taking the time to watch this programme. I know you're going to find it useful, especially if you're interested in increasing the turnover and profitability of your branch, because what we're going to be talking about is how you can increase your sales very simply, very quickly, and you'll be pleased to hear, very easily. You're going to benefit from sales that might not otherwise have happened. You're going to attract new customers while keeping hold of your existing ones, and you're going to make sure that your customers buy from you rather than your competitors. How? Well, it's actually very simple. You change your counter from somewhere you display your stock into a place that actively generates sales. It's not a new idea. The more successful retailers have been doing it for years. It's called merchandising, and we might not realise it, but we're influenced by it every time we go shopping. It's one of the main reasons why we impulse buy or try different brands, or we spend more than we should on something we didn't even know we wanted in the first place. Now, some people might say a builder's merchant is not like a supermarket. Customers don't need merchandising. They know what they want, and they come in and buy it. But these customers of yours are the same people who'll go into a sportswear shop and buy a sweatshirt they don't need. It's the same principle. Good merchandising convinces your customers that what you've got to sell is what he wants to buy. Yeah, he'll come in with a list of what he wants, and if it's in stock, you can serve it to him. That's easy. But with good merchandising, he may well leave having bought more than was down on that list in the first place. Something he'd forgotten, or something he needed, or something he didn't really think about until he came in. Good merchandising is about getting the maximum sales potential out of every customer that walks through that door. It works, and it's a lot easier than you think. In the next few minutes, I'm going to be running through an action plan that'll help you get the most from your counter. To help me, I've got Tony Rowntree, who's been working with retailers and merchants all over the country. He's been having a look at some of the Graham counters and checking out where things could be done a little bit better. What are you doing at the moment?
I'm just facing these up, actually, Russell. Just make sure everything's neat and tidy after merchandising.
Is this what you call the smiley face?
Absolutely correct, yeah.
No doubt we'll talk more about that later on.
We will, yeah.
You've worked with lots of builders merchants, haven't you?
That's right, yeah. For probably the last 10 years or so, I've been in this industry, that's correct.
Is there anything unique about builders merchants?
No, I think the same principles and philosophies apply to builders merchants as all industries, actually. So no, I wouldn't say there probably is.
No, OK, well, we'll be coming back to you and chatting to you a little bit later on.
OK, thanks.
See you later. Cheers. Now, before we get into the more sophisticated points of merchandising, let's go through a few of the basics. We're going to use a couple of branches to illustrate the points. This one, which has recently been refurbished, and this one, which is typical of many of the older branches that haven't yet been upgraded. Now, obviously, it's harder to make things look pristine in somewhere like this, but the idea of this programme is to show you how you can make the most of whatever kind of counter area you have. Now, the first thing you can do is make sure the area is clean and tidy. For example, if your customers have to climb over stock or move trolleys out of the way to get to what they want, they're basically not going to bother. Now, I know it's a builder's merchant and there's going to be some dust around, and of course you can't keep it spotless. But just for a second, take a look at this. If a customer sees something this dirty, what's he going to think? It's out of date, or these can't be much good, they're not selling any. Now, the reason it often gets in this kind of state is because it's been on the shelf for ages. So, as well as giving it the occasional clean, rotate the stock. Put your new stock at the back of the shelf and move the old stock to the front. That way, it's not sitting there forever. Obviously, make sure the front of the packaging is facing the customer. And if you don't have a barcoding system, then all items on display should carry the Graham code, which is this one here. And also something else that's extremely important is this here. It should be clearly priced. If it isn't, you're not only making life difficult for your customers, but you're also breaking the law. Obviously, you've got to try and keep the counter itself as tidy as you can. Don't have bits of paper lying around, and put all the literature you've got into the dispensers and keep it all together somewhere near the counter. Put all your Graham price guides and special offers into the dispensers and keep them on the counter. They can do a good job prompting impulse buying. Your point of sale should be eye-catching, attractive and professional. Used well, it can really draw attention to a display and get customers interested. But don't use handwritten posters, it makes the place look a wee bit untidy. You can easily order good, professionally produced point of sale material through your branch promotions pack, and it will be money well spent. Also, make sure that whatever company posters you've got are in a good, prominent position. There's no point having them if they're going to be stuck away in a corner. All right, well, that's all pretty straightforward stuff. Common sense, really. But there's more to good merchandising than simply keeping the place tidy. To turn your self-serve area into a really effective sales environment, we have to understand how we can influence our customers' behaviour. Remember, what we're trying to do when we merchandise a store is to get customers to notice and be attracted to products that they didn't come in to buy. The idea is to try to sell them more than they've come in for. And the way you do it is by making the most of the products you're selling and the space that you've got to sell them in. Tony, you're the man who's in the know as far as merchandising goes.
Yeah.
So where do we start?
I think the first thing we have to do is identify our best-selling lines, say the top 10 selling lines, and then position them in the worst places in the store. Traditionally, one of the worst places is right of the entrance or the faraway corner from the counter. That will help pull the customers around the store, which is the objective of a good planned merchandise layout branch.
Now, what you're saying in theory is that you don't want customers to come from the door to the counter and back out again. You're trying to get them to move around the store.
That's right. Move around the store, see the stock, and hopefully purchase some of the stock en route.
Now, Tony, this is a great example of a poorly merchandised area. So where would you start with somewhere like this?
First and foremost, I think I would start with the store layout.
Right.
The layout is the flip side of merchandising, and I'd probably start near the entrance.
So, Tony, what's the problem with this bit here?
Well, if you recall that the entrance is an area where we want people to walk to the right, and as you can see, we have a barrier here. And this is seriously going to stop people getting there. I mean, people probably haven't walked through there for months and months.
So first things first, get this moved.
Absolutely. Move it out the way.
Now, I have a sneaky feeling, Tony, this won't make you a happy man, will it?
Well, not really, Russell. No, that should be a clearly marked aisleway so you could get to the products on the shelving there. Customers like to be able to get in, get the products, take them to the counter, get out and go on the job. Should make it simple. Aisleways every 3 to 4 metres. That's good enough.
Now, you're saying that somebody wouldn't come in here and browse round?
No, they wouldn't. People like to get in and out extremely quickly and build this merchant.
Now, I'm no expert, Tony, but it's fairly obvious to me straight away that these shelves aren't being used as well as they should be.
No, they're not. They should be full. I would like to see at least 2 tins high and certainly pulling them right up to the front here.
Is there any reason why these are down at the front all the time? I know you like to see that.
Yeah, it's rather a humorous thing. It's known as the smiling can. And the reason for that, Russell, is that when customers are carrying other products, they can be taken from the shelf with one hand and walked away.
Right. So apart from empty shelves, are you happy?
Well, I'm not very happy with the layout. No, I'm not. In my opinion, the layout should be faced the other way around.
So you're talking about twisting these?
Twist them round, keep the gaps that we've talked about. The advantage of that is that customers will walk past them on the way to the counter and upon leaving the counter. The other thing is that it helps from a security point of view for the staff behind the counter.
So if they're on end, as it were, guys behind there have got a clear view all the way down the aisle.
Yes.
And customers have to walk past the product, therefore there's a chance they're going to buy something.
That's right. They're constantly exposed to the product, and you never know, a decision might suddenly be made, I'll have one of those. You've created an impulse buy.
So, following Tony's advice, the layout is changed to make much better use of the space and to enable customers to get to different areas of the store quickly and easily. Changing direction of the gondolas means customers are more likely to see the products, and we can now use the space near the counter to create a good area for displaying the small, low-cost impulse buy products. It's all very well putting the best-selling lines here, but people don't want to have to search for them, do they?
No, it's a good point, it is, and a lot of people miss out on this. One sign indicating what the product is beneath would be very, very useful because it would attract the customer over again, away from that pull to walk straight to the trade counter. Good point.
Now, taking the shelving space that we've got here, how would you suggest it's laid out?
There's a saying, eye level is buy level, okay?
Explain, Tony.
Right. Most people have a vision of, say, 1.5 meters without moving their head
Right.
when a customer is walking along.
Okay.
Now, taking into account that a buying decision is made upon a thousandth of a second, the impulse buy, if you like. This area here, I would say, of this shelving is the best-selling area.
Right.
So these two shelves. So I would put products that you want to sell, high profit lines, for instance, or new lines that have just come into the branch. I would then put your demand lines, remember the top 10 lines again, so we're splitting your top 10 into sections here. Your top selling lines should either go at the bottom or at the top.
Why?
The reason is that the customer will make the effort to go down and purchase it.
Right.
He's bought it
Right.
and he's away to the counter.
Right.
The last thing we want, Russell, is somebody to say, I'll get it later, because you've lost the sale.
Right.
If the product is here, an impulse buy could occur, I'll have one of them. We all do it. This is a good area for it.
All right. And obviously the top shelf's important too, isn't it? Smaller.
Smaller, obviously we don't want things too hard to get off the shelf. This is a good example. It can be taken off with one hand. It's not too high. And yeah, again, a demand item. These are very good demand products. They could also be at the front of the counter.
And of course the other advantage is it's going to draw people into this corner, which utilises this dead area, but along the way they're passing other gondolas as they go.
You've got it, absolutely correct.
So what are you attempting to do here then, Tony?
Well, what we've got here is probably a perfect example of vertical merchandising. As you can see, we've got the same products displayed in a row here, starting from the smaller tins to the bigger tubs. It's also known as block merchandising. In fact, a number of merchants will only do block merchandising.
And what's the point of it?
Well, it helps the customer because it's condensed in one area. And like we keep talking about, the customer wants to get in, buy his products and get out quickly, rather than spreading them along, say, one continuous shelf.
Now, a lot of thought's gone into the whole process here at this branch. I assume, therefore, there's a reason you've got the paintbrushes over here.
Yeah, in fact, this is a deliberate ploy, and normally, well, there isn't a normal, but as a standard, you may have the paintbrushes next to the paint. But we put them over here because, as a philosophy, it can attract people to both sides of the shelving units when they're walking through, particularly as it's a direct route to the counter. And as you can see, it's all linked together. In fact, all products should be linked together in the branch that do the same job.
So you group them into areas within the branch?
Yeah, you would have like plumbing and heating products, decorating products, timber treatment products, all grouped together. That, without question, is the first step to effective merchandising.
And at the end of the day, what you're doing is someone who comes in to buy some paint may well impulse buy a paintbrush.
Yeah, in fact, it's a good point. It's the add-on sale or the impulse buy that everyone is trying to get, every merchant in the country.
Okay.
What we've got here is almost the perfect impulse buy product, which tends to be small and inexpensive.
Now, Tony, I believe that the ends of the aisles here are great places for impulse buys. Is that right?
Yeah, this is probably the perfect spot for an impulse buy product. I like to see gondola units with ends on, certainly facing the counter. And the mastic, like you're holding there, is probably the classic product